Hey guys, welcome back to the Don't Settle Squad podcast, episode 67, You Are Not Okay As You Are. Some of the most unhelpful advice told to men, in my opinion, you are okay as you are. So in this episode, I'll show you how it's not the answer that you're looking for. So to start this episode, I'll just read out a quote. So I'll read out a quote from Primal Virtues. So it's Jonathan Rios, who I follow on Instagram, and I find a lot of his content helpful. So the quote was, "Men must drop the illusion that they are okay as they are. Men find greater levels of self-worth and confidence through becoming more than they currently are. Many therapists and coaches tell men they should just love themselves as they are, but a man is hardwired for development and building things. When he fails to do that, he will feel depressed, angry and lost." Okay, so I'm actually just realising that's probably where I got the title from. But you can see there, it's the same opinion of just telling men that they're okay as they are. It's not going to help. I know the angle that's coming from. It's mainly usually through the therapy route. As I said in the last episode, I've done the therapy route. I've done lots of different routes. I only talk about things that I have experience in and coaching in. So we'll cover that in the first point. We will cover the good parts of therapy from the first point, but in the second and third points, you'll see how it's not the answer, and that, as Jonathan is saying there, men aren't wired for that, just to sit there and do nothing. We're wired for development, building things, and just moving forward in life. Okay, so the three areas I'm going to break it down into is, number one, integrate your shame. Number two, men want to feel powerful. And then number three, chase your own self-respect. So by the end of this, in 15 or 20 minutes, you'll understand my perspective on it, that you're not okay as you are. And if you're listening to that advice and it's not helping you, you're going to know why by the end of this episode. So on number one, integrate your shame. So this is obviously nuanced. What I'm not saying therapy is useless. I'm not saying that you need to feel shame about different parts of yourself. I'm not saying any of those things, okay? As I said, I've done those routes, and you need to integrate those parts of yourself that you don't like. Okay, so I love a great line that I heard before, which was, shame only exists in the shadows. So if you don't know anything about psychology, this is part of your learning. You need to dive into these things. You need to understand how your brain works, how the mind works, the human mind works, and obviously I preach learn how the body works if you want to get over chronic pain. So it's the same here. We need to understand ourselves with much more self-awareness. And that's the kind of classic men thing, is they just don't listen to any of this. They shove down all emotions and just move on, which isn't going to work, okay? It's going to come out in your life in different ways. So if you're not aware of the shadow, basically this would be parts of yourself that you don't like, usually because either your parents or people in school or whatever, through your upbringing, gave out to you or mocked you when you expressed that side of yourself. So you repress it, you push it into the shadow, and you're not aware of it anymore, but that will actually run your life under the surface, okay? So that's the basic concept of the shadow, coming from Carl Jung, one of the most kind of famous people in that shaped modern psychology, you could say. And I like a lot of his stuff. So he would say, until you make the until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll run your life and you'll call it fate. So basically he's saying, until you get more self-awareness and see these parts of yourself that you've pushed into the shadow, until you integrate them, like I'm saying, until you integrate your shame, integrate those parts of yourself that you pushed away, they're going to control you under the surface, and you're going to keep playing out the same patterns in your life, and you're going to think that's fate or whatever you believe in. But no, it's because you don't understand yourself enough and you haven't integrated those parts of yourself that you felt shame over. Okay, so that's what we need to do. It's a never-ending process. I've done a lot of it, which is some of the toughest work that you'll do, but everyone, I believe, needs to do this. It's going to help your life so much, and also the other people that you're interacting with, from loved ones just to strangers. So if you want to go deeper, dive into that. Episode 13, Understanding Your Emotions, would be one route. You could start on that one, or you could even just start Googling this stuff. If you don't know anything about it, now you do. It's a massive part of understanding yourself, understanding the shadow side. And I suppose to give you an example, because I didn't give one there, it could be, let's just say as a man, when something happened as a kid, you fell over and you started crying, and then your dad was like, man up. I'll just use the kind of classic one. And or maybe that happened in school and you were taught crying is bad or crying is embarrassing as a man or whatever, and then you just never cry again. Or you don't do it in public or in front of anyone. Maybe it's just when other people can't see. So like that's something that'll just have a hold over you if it's going to remain in the shadow forever. Like even the documentary that I made, like if you know what I've talked about before about social anxiety and different things, and I made a documentary here before, paid a good bit of money for it to push the message and not settling for your chronic pain and injury. Like in that, I actually basically cried a small bit or was on the verge of it. But I was okay with it, like, because I'd done this kind of work. I was trying to get out all my passion, and obviously they're asking you. It's funny seeing the way documentaries are made. They ask you the most emotional questions to actually try and get these reactions out of you. But like I understand it, and I was okay with it, because that. Like vulnerability is the bridge to connection. That's how I actually got a lot of clients, because people saw how much the chronic pain affected me when I tried to talk about it. So yeah, but the kind of point there is that I was okay with that for a good while anyway. So I already knew going in is like, okay, if I get too passionate about this and he asks all these questions, I might end up tearing up a little bit, but that's okay, because that happens to every man. You know, it's just a part of it. It's obviously different if you're crying at something that happens every single day and you can't move forward in your life, okay? So it's just the context around it. And that's the last point I'll touch on under point 1 of integrating your shame. Jocko Willink talked about this in a great way, because another thread that comes up here is, you know, the things of the toxic masculinity and the aggression, we'll say, and how terrible that is, and any man that shows aggression is toxic. Again, they're all such surface level conversations. Like there's so much nuance to them. And the way Jocko put it, I'm going to say that to you now, because that just cuts through it and shows you how those arguments don't even really make sense. Okay, the way Jocko said it was, forget like aggression or whatever people think is toxic masculinity. Take any emotion. So he's like, okay, focus on those toxic ones if you want, but I mean, you can use this example with any emotion. If you take any emotion to the extreme, it's going to be a problem for that person and for people in their lives. Any emotion. Like think of the aggression there, which people say is toxic. It's just about the level it's taken to and also the context. So for aggression, if I'm in a meeting in work and I get so aggressive that I throw a chair across the room, that's a problem. You know, that's aggression not being managed or channeled in the right way. Or it could be something else. Partners having a fight, the man can't control his aggression and maybe he hits her or something like that. All that stuff, I'm not saying that's good. That's obviously bad because the level it's got to and the context it was in. But then consider this. What if you're in a room with me and a guy comes in with a knife and tries to stab you? You'd want my aggression then, wouldn't you? You know, so it's all about the context around it and the level that you go to. So again there, in that example, let's say anyone who's given out about toxic masculinity this, toxic masculinity that, if they were in a room and, yeah, people broke in and some of the biggest, strongest, most aggressive men in the room were there, would they be like, no, don't stand up for me, that's toxic? Do you see what I'm saying? Of course they wouldn't. Like most of those people even would be like expecting you to do something. So like you can't have it both ways. And I think the way that Jocko explained it, that's the best way to explain it, is like any emotion. Because think of other things like kindness and empathy, which that's the kind of angle like, oh, men are too aggressive, they need to be more kind and empathetic. Again, that's not the answer either. Like it's all about the context. Like, does a man need to be kind? Yes, of course he does. But if a man is just like, he takes it to an extreme level and he's just too nice to everyone no matter how they treat him and he's no boundaries and he's just a doormat, is he helping anyone? No. I mean, I've been there. So, like, you're not helping yourself, you're not feeling good, and then everyone around you, you're not helping them either. Everyone's just walking all over you. So they're not even learning boundaries and consequences and stuff that they should be learning too. So, yeah, it was just a great point that any emotion taken to the extreme is going to be a problem. It's not just certain specific ones that are kind of cherry-picked with a certain example. Okay, so a bit longer there on the integrating your shame, but there's so many different angles you could talk about there on it. So on to number 2 then. Men want to feel powerful. So this is going into the quote that Jonathan had said already. So yeah, one of the biggest kind of things that isn't helpful is like that you're okay as you are, that you don't have to improve. Like for me, that's answered in question 1. Like I think what you should be thinking of, or maybe hopefully what people mean, is that you are okay as you are in terms of the shame and stuff that you've pushed away. That's okay. That's part of you. You need to integrate it. So I do agree with that. But that takes work. That doesn't just take you going, okay, I'm sound with that. Like, it takes a lot of work as well, same as physical training. Like, it takes mental training, emotional training, etc. It takes work to do that. So I do agree with that. But in terms of just like, you're okay as you are, you don't need to work on this or work on that, it's not going to move you forward. You're not going to feel good. You're not going to be excuse me you're not going to be helpful to people in your life. So yeah, that's what I down here, that men want to feel capable, powerful, able to make changes in their lives. So like, some of the more like oldest lines on masculinity, the kind of protect, provide, procreate, obviously it's evolved since then into the emotional side too, integrating that, which I've talked about. But yeah, to be able to do those things, to be able to protect, provide, procreate, you need to be capable in some form. Like, to protect someone, you need to be physically capable, like I just kind of said with the aggression example. You need to be a man who has faced his anger, faced his aggression, integrated, is able to control it, and only use it in useful ways, like maybe to push him in his training or to protect people in those situations. Like, again, it's going back to the other line of, like, a weak man isn't a good man because he can't actually do anything in these situations to protect people. And a lot of times as well, which you'll find out, a weak person's main tool is manipulation, because they have no other weapons. Does that make sense? If let's say there's 4 men here, 3 of them are physically capable and strong, that 4th man can't do anything to these other men, and these other men could do anything to him. So what can he use? The only thing he can use would be like his mind and manipulation tactics as well. So ironically, you'll find like the men who would be the most manipulative or lie, a lot of the times they can be the weaker men, which is interesting. Yeah, so that's what I'd said last episode then about feeling powerful, wanting to feel capable. I won't kind of repeat a lot of it again, but an episode to go to there would be train to be hard to kill. So that's episode 61 of the podcast. That's starting with the physical. And I think a lot of this stuff does start with the physical. So I'm preaching being hard to kill, like working on mobility, strength, cardio, martial arts as a good base for your own life to become capable. And that's leading in here as well to this episode. So you can go and listen to that one if you want a deeper dive on that. And the last point then of chasing your own self-respect, I think this is a better line. Like, look, these are my opinions. You can turn this off instantly if you're not agreeing with it or it's not useful. But instead of saying you're okay as you are, that's what I would say. Like to younger Mark, when that stuff didn't help him, because again, like I said, I've been through these routes, that stuff didn't help me. The line in hindsight would have been, chase your own self-respect, Mark. That's what I would have told him. And that's what would have got me to where I am. Because that's essentially what I did, but I didn't realise in hindsight. And it's such a great line because it really shows you what it is that you want to do. It removes your fear, it removes like external judgment, and it gets through to the core of like in your heart, in your soul, what is it that you actually want to do? And then when I think of that, Mark, who's shy, not saying what he thinks, he's a doormat, a pushover, he's physically weak, like all these other things, it's easy. Mark, what would gain your self-respect there? Well, if you just start saying what you think for months. Okay, that's a good start. You know, what would gain your own self-respect? If you stopped giving up on returning to Jiu-Jitsu and you just did anything possible to get back your physical freedom so you could get out of this chronic pain that's massively affecting your life and you could get back training and doing things that you love. You know, it would just snowball so easily from there. What else would gain your self-respect? Well, the thing I'm passionate about, I could turn that into a business. That was another route. And like it just kept going from there. So that's a great line. Just think in your life now, how would you gain your own self-respect? Or if that's a little bit tough, you could think, if you had a son or a daughter, what could they do that would make you respect them? You know, you just put it onto someone else, or you could say a friend. Like, what would make you respect your best friend more? But yeah, if it works on yourself, it did for me. It's like, you know, how would you gain your own self-respect? That's the best way to put it. And then the funny thing is as well, through chasing my own self-respect, I got the respect of others, which wasn't the actual goal, but that's what happens once you do that. And it's also another good angle of, like, I do believe that respect is the lifeblood of men. Like, if we are talking about wanting to feel good, like the whole kind of purpose of this episode, you're not okay as you are, and that's usually men when life isn't going very well and we're not feeling good, we're not happy. Think of this. If you were deeply respected in your career, in whatever physical avenues you're down, if it's your team, if you're the captain of your team and everyone's looking up to you, or if it's in the gym, you're one of the strongest, most ripped people in the gym, And then in your romantic life, you're respected. If you're a man, women are after you. If you're a woman, men are after you. Or else you're in a great relationship and your partner looks up to you and admires you and respects you. You telling me your life isn't going to be good? Just think of that, like the different avenues of your life, your training life, your relationships, your career. If everyone respected you, that's like the ideal life for pretty much most people. Like you've the love and connection from a partner that admires you, and you're in your career, you're doing great work, people are looking up to you and respecting you, and then in your physical adventures, you're feeling strong and capable, and people are looking up to you, and like in all these ones, you can be helping everyone here as well. That's peak masculinity, in my opinion, like when you're just well respected. And here's the thing, that respect doesn't come for free. Respect is earned, not given. And that's the thing. And how does it all happen? Through becoming capable, like I'm saying here. So like it all happened kind of in reverse and by accident for me, where I just started chasing my own self-respect, and through doing that I became very capable, and then in a roundabout way lots of other people started respecting me. And you notice the difference. Like it's mad, because like a lot of these things, I've been on both sides. I've been the doormat. Someone would walk through me, or not even look at me, walk over me to like I'm saying, in all these different avenues, like people just treating you so much differently and respecting you and looking up to you and admiring you and asking you questions about how'd you do this, how'd you do that. But again, it's come from a lot of work. It's come from 7-8 years of tough work in lots of different areas. And I talked about last week about having to commit. So just to reiterate that, I won't go into it, but like to improve at these things and become capable, you have to commit and you have to make sacrifices and build yourself through the hard work. Like those transformations we're talking about, transformations require hardship. It can't happen any other way. Like you build yourself through doing things. It's going back to the quote at the start. It's not just going to happen accepting yourself as you are. That's just one step. You have to go and build yourself, fail, keep going, and work at all these things with the help of coaches and mentors if you want to make it much easier. And what other points do I have here? Yeah, I'll finish on this last point around the self-respect, and it's about risk. There's no respect without risk. So think about that one. If you want to respect yourself, and if you want others to respect you, it's not going to happen if you don't take a risk. Why? Because if you don't take any risks, you aren't courageous and you're just sitting in the comfort zone. Like think of anyone that you admire. Could be your dad all the way up to Batman and these superheroes. Every single one of them was courageous. And to be courageous, what do you have to do? You have to take a risk. Because that sets you apart from everyone else, because most people don't take risks. So, like when I think of it like that, that makes complete sense, because I've taken so many risks. And I've put my heart and soul on the line for things, which leads you open to feeling the negative side of it too. That's inherent in risks. So, yeah, like I've already said them, the kind of physical freedom journey, the mental freedom one, the lifestyle one with my business and different things. And I've done it through the therapy routes. I've done all these things where I've taken risks and left myself open to be humbled. And I've been humbled many times, and to pain. I've been through a lot of pain and all these things, but that's what it takes. Like there's going to be no respect for yourself or for other people to you without having taken some sort of risks in your life. And then, the final thing after that, which is kind of like Jonathan had said, like that we're hardwired for building things. I think he said it in a different post, is like that we need to go to war in some way. So last episode I talked about different war stories, but like I think every man, I'm a man, I can only speak from that avenue. I think it'll be different for women, but I think like deep in men, there is some sort of need to prove ourselves. Okay, and there is some sort of need to prove ourselves, and this can go off in very bad ways. But once, let me just think of that line from Jonathan. It was something like, you kind of won't see like a centered man who's like okay with himself, and yeah, just a kind of calmer energy, as opposed to, let's say, the kind of teenager kind of the aggression stuff we're talking about, getting in fights, all this kind of stuff. Like you don't kind of get to the stage where you're kind of centered and more calm, like confident but more calm. You don't get to that level as a man until you've proved yourself. And it has to be in some sort of way. And like for me, that was the physical freedom journey. Like looking back, it makes a lot of sense. It's been a few journeys, but the first one was the physical freedom journey, putting it all on the line to come back and play sports that I loved. Because I had the soccer career, I gave up on that. I didn't prove myself there. Does that make sense? Like, I got to high enough levels, but I gave up on myself. So the whole kind of point about the proving yourself, it's about not giving up and pushing through all this pain and just committing to something, no matter the risks, no matter what's happening, and making it through to the end, even though you don't think you can. You know, it's like the initiations, like you would have had in the past in the different tribes. Like, to become a man, you have to go through this big initiation or a big challenge. You don't just wake up one day, you're 18, happy birthday, now you're a man. You go through these crucible, the challenges. Like, you get it a bit in the martial arts with the belts. Like, you don't get that black belt for nothing. You know, I'm purple belt now. I didn't get that purple belt for nothing. You know, there's years of hard work, getting beaten up from white to blue belt, etc., and pushing through these things. So I think that's what all men need. We do need to go to war and prove ourselves to ourselves. And like, if I think of some of the challenges I've done, like two that pop into my mind, like the Jiu-Jitsu one, definitely. I suppose a different one as well was the rogue bike. I've done some crazy challenges on the rogue bike, which I had on Instagram. People were messaging me like, are you okay? Like, I went to some dark places there. Like, if, let's just say when most people give up, if you're listening now and you're not very well trained, your limit when you give up, I pushed through like 4 of them, we'll say. So yeah, it's just pushing yourselves to levels that you didn't know were there. And I've also ran an untrained barefoot shoe marathon about 3 years ago. Okay, so when you just think of those things, did I think it was possible? Yeah. Did I think it would happen? Not really sure. But I got up, I fully committed to it, I took the risk, and I did some of these things, you know, and proved it to myself. So yeah, I do get that, like, I feel calm. I've nothing to prove to myself, to anyone else. And usually then at this stage, yeah, you just like actually sharing these things and trying to bring others through that journey. So yeah, I think I got a little bit lost through that one, but hopefully that's making a bit of sense. And if you are someone that maybe was told, just accept yourself and you'll be fine, hopefully this is making more sense. At least my experience in the journey as a man, still just 32, still lots to learn, still learning every day. But this is what I'd send back in time to my younger self. So hopefully it's helping. Yeah, I think we'll finish it there. So it's still sunny in Ireland. Sorry about the lighting again. Like, it's so funny. It's usually not sunny here much, and the sun is coming up and down in between the clouds, and it's really messing up the lighting here. As I said, this year I will be upgrading the YouTube, maybe even videoing it somewhere else, getting a better camera, etc. So apologies for that. You can see, yeah, the last video got a lot of views, whatever's happening. Or I mean, hopefully the content's good. I don't see any other explanation, because I'm just uploading them myself, you know. I'm not doing any flashy stuff or clickbaity shite that I hate. So yeah, look, it's resonating with some people. I think it's 400 people watched the last episode, and I only have like 200 followers. So yeah, that one kind of took off a little bit, and a few comments and stuff. It's at 438 now. That one's taken off. Cool. Yeah, so look, I'm just going to keep putting these things out, just speaking to my younger self. And the funny thing as well, for anyone else, because obviously I've been there, social anxiety, thinking I've nothing to share. Well, there's 438 people there who's listening to the last one. Think of that amount of people. If you're someone sharing things on Instagram or anywhere else on YouTube, and there's like 2 people watching, that's still 2 people. Like, think of those people in a room. Oh, only 10 people watched. If 10 people stood here in the sitting room with you, you'd probably be sweating and struggling to even speak if you've never done it before. So don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted. I'm literally thinking, when I look at that, 438 people in this sitting room here, it wouldn't fit. You know, this is like 438 people. That's like a full small hall. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking, all those people sat down to listen to what I have to say. I take that seriously, you know. So it's a different view on it. A mentor told me that before, and it really changed my perspective on it, because I'm like, you know, the way I think of it, 1 person or 1 million, why should I be doing it differently? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing it for younger Mark. That's what helps me to say these things. So I'm actually doing it for 1 person, really, in my mind when I'm talking. So whoever, if it's 400, 400,000, 4 million, it doesn't really matter. I'm still going to be saying the same things. Okay, so finish up there. Where am I gone now? Yeah, just on the few ways you can work with me then, like the Mobility for Jiu-Jitsu class in Dublin, in Inchicore, every Saturday. So that's 11:30, 12:30. And then I host the sparring session afterwards, which is 12:45 to 2 p.m. So the sparring is for Brazier Jiu-Jitsu members only. The mobility class is for everyone. So if you're interested in starting your mobility journey or your Jiu-Jitsu journey, you can DM me. So DM me on Instagram, Guy Didn't Settle, or email me at guywhodidn'tsettle@gmail.com and we'll get you started. And then we have the Physical Freedom Program, the online version, so the membership is there. The cheaper entry, if you can't afford the one-to-one, obviously the one-to-one with unlimited access is the way to go. And yeah, so follow, rate the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube, if I check there, I think on Spotify there's like 10 people listening. On YouTube, 438. So yeah, I actually just started sharing the videos because I saw somebody else doing it and was thinking, yeah, maybe some people want to watch, but whatever's happening here seems to be taking off way more on YouTube. So that's cool. Yeah, so I guess if you're one of those people, just subscribe. That's what will help it go up even more. Like 430 something people have watched it. I've only 200 subscribers. So if that's you, please subscribe. That'll help get the videos out to more people and spread the information. Cool. So we'll leave it there. So don't settle. Live true to yourself. We'll talk to you next week.